Porsche 911 Turbo, 930, 1973–89. The Porsche 930 is a sports car manufactured by German automobile manufacturer Porsche between 1975 and 1989, known to the public as the 911 Turbo. It was the maker's top-of-the-range 911 model for its entire production duration and, at the time of its introduction, was the fastest production car available in Germany. Porsche began experimenting with turbocharging technology on their race cars during the late 1960s, and in 1972 began development on a turbocharged version of the 911. Porsche originally needed to produce the car in order to comply with homologation regulations and had intended on marketing it as a street-legal race vehicle like the 1973 Carrera 2.7 RS. The FI as Appendix J rules upon which the 911 Turbo Carrera RSR 2.1 was entered into competition in 1974 changed in 1975 and 1976. The FI announced that cars for Group 4 and Group 5 had to be production cars and be available for sale to individual purchasers through manufacturer dealer networks. For the 1976 season, new FI regulations required manufacturers to produce 400 cars within a 24-month period to gain approval for Group 4. Group 5 would require the car to be derived from a homologated model in Group 3 or 4. Porsche's Group 4 entry was the 934, homologated on December 6, 1975. For Group 5, Porsche would develop one of the most successful racing cars of the time, the 935. The 911 Turbo was put into production in 1975. While the original purpose of the 911 Turbo was to gain homologation for the 1976 racing season, it quickly became popular among car enthusiasts. 400 cars were produced by the end of 1975. Since Porsche wanted to compete in the 1976 season, they gained FI homologation for the Porsche Turbo for Group 4 in near 645 on December 6, 1975, and the 1911 Turbo was completed on May 5, 1976. Ernst Foreman adapted the turbo technology originally developed for the 917-30 Can-Am car and applied it to the 3.0-liter flat six used in Carrera RS 3.0, thus creating what Porsche internally dubbed as the 930. The car utilizes a single KKK turbocharger. Total power output from the engine was 260 PS, 191 kilowatts, 256 horsepower, at 5,500 revolutions per minute and 329 Nm, 243 pounds-feet, of torque at 4,000 revolutions per minute, much more than the standard Carrera it was based on. The engine has a compression ratio of 6.5 to 1. In order to ensure that the platform could make the most of the higher power output, a revised suspension, larger brakes and a stronger gearbox became part of the package. Although some consumers were unhappy with Porsche's use of a 4-speed transmission whilst a 5-speed manual transmission was available in the lower trim Carrera. A whale-tail rear spoiler was installed to help vent more air to the engine and to create more downforce at the rear of the vehicle, and wider rear wheels with upgraded tires combined with flared wheel arches were implemented in order to increase the car's width and grip, making it more stable. Porsche badged the vehicle simply as Turbo, although early US units were badged as Turbo Carrera, and introduced the vehicle at the Paris Auto Show in October 1974 before putting it on sale in the spring of 1975. Export to the United States began in 1976. The 930 proved very fast but also very demanding to drive, and due to its short wheelbase and rear engine layout, was prone to oversteer and turbo lag. Porsche made its first and most significant changes to the 930 for 1978 model year, enlarging the engine bore by 2 mm, 0.08 in, to a total displacement of 3,299 cc, 3.3 liters, 201.3 cubic inches, and adding an air-to-air intercooler. By cooling the pressurized air charge, the intercooler helped increase power output to 300 PS. 221 kilowatts, 296 horsepower, at 5,500 revolutions per minute and 412 Nm, 304 pounds-feet, of torque at 4,000 revolutions per minute. The rear whale tail spoiler was reprofiled and raised slightly to make room for the intercooler, and the spoiler was now infamously called the T-tray spoiler by the enthusiasts. The suspension benefited from new anti-roll bars, firmer shock absorbers and larger diameter rear torsion bars. Porsche also upgraded the brakes to units similar to those used on the 917 race car. While the increase in displacement and addition of an intercooler increased power output and torque, these changes also increased the weight of the vehicle, especially the engine, which contributed to a substantial change in the handling and character of the car compared to the earlier 3.0-liter models. Changing emissions regulations in Japan and the United States forced Porsche to withdraw the 930 from those markets in 1980. It however remained available in Canada. Envisioning the luxurious 928 Gran Turismo eventually replacing the 911 as the top of the Porsche model lineup, Foreman cut back further development on the model, and it was not until his resignation that the company finally committed the financing to re-regulate the car. The 930 remained available in Europe, and for 1983 a 330 PS, 243 kilowatts, 325 horsepower, at 5,750 revolutions per minute and 432 Nm, 319 pounds-feet, at 4,000 revolutions per minute of torque performance option became available on a build-to-order basis from Porsche. With the so-called Werksleistungssteigerung, WLS, Works Performance Increase, add-on came a quad-pipe exhaust system and an additional oil cooler requiring a remodeled front spoiler, and units bearing the add-on often featured additional ventilation holes in the rear fenders and modified rockers. By the 1985 model year, 928 sales had risen slightly, but the question remained as to whether it would supersede the 911 as the company's premier model. Porsche reintroduced the 930 to the Japanese and US markets in 1986 with an emission-controlled engine having a power output of 282 horsepower, 210 kilowatts, 286 PS, at 5,500 revolutions per minute and 377 Nm, 278 pounds-feet, at 4,000 revolutions per minute of torque. At the same time Porsche introduced Targa and Cabriolet variants, both of which proved popular. Porsche discontinued the 930 after the 1989 model year when its underlying G-Series platform was being replaced by the 964. The 1989 models were the first and last versions of the 930 to feature the Getrag G55-speed manual transmission. A turbocharged variant of the 964 officially succeeded the 930 in 1991 with a modified version of the same 3.3-liter flat-six engine and a 5-speed transmission.